that Daniel Dubois has challenged Jake Paul, if you like, to a fight. How would you see that going?
You know what? I like Jake Paul. I like what he's doing for boxing, but this is getting ridiculous now. Obviously,
Jake Paul has now been called out by IBF World Heavyweight Champion Daniel Dubois following his controversial victory over Mike Tyson last Friday.
Now look, Tony, if these reports are right, that Daniel Dubois has offered Jake Paul a shot at the IBF Heavyweight World title, well, could you see that fight happening? Could you see Jake Paul getting in the ring with Dubois?
Jeff, I mean, I know the boy's got a great imagination, but I don't know what plans he's on, mate. He's just got to be on Mars or somewhere like that to even think about something like that. I mean, listen, it couldn't be sanctioned anyway, that's first and foremost.
The YouTube star produced an uninspiring performance to comprehensively outpoint his 58-year-old opponent through 8 two-minute rounds at the AT&T Stadium, Texas.
It was crap, wasn't it? Let's be honest. The fight itself was awful. What happened in the fight? What happened in the ring? There was no substance. It's like when you're cooking a meal all day. You cook up a nice broth. You put your organic steak mince in. You put your potatoes in. Your sweet potatoes are a bit better for you. Bit of vegetables, all your stock, and you're slow cooking it all day. And then at the end of the day, when you dip the spoon in and you have a little sample and it tastes like absolute shit, you think to yourself, what a waste of time that was. And that's what this fight was. The fight itself was a massive anticlimax. It was crap. It was a waste of time. I'm glad I didn't stay up late to watch it. All the people that pay good money to be there and watch it, they must be disappointed with that performance. The fight was absolutely hopeless. It was terrible.
As expected, Mike Tyson had a brief burst of energy in the first round before fatigue ultimately kicked in, with the former heavyweight champion throwing just 97 punches in total. Jake Paul, meanwhile, has since been called out by every fighter under the sun, with murderous puncher Daniel Dubois now throwing his name into the mix.
I can understand why Daniel would challenge him, because maybe Daniel's biggest payday so far, as funny as it may seem, considering he's the world champion. Jake Paul is a YouTuber. Maybe Daniel's biggest payday. I get it. And he'll get murdered.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the truth, isn't it? He's not going to get in with a proper boxer, is he? A proper professional at the moment.
No, it's strange, Dylan, because
around 70,000 fans were in attendance for Paul and Tyson's nonsensical showdown, with over 60 million people from around the world watching Netflix's first ever live boxing event. And so, it is perhaps unsurprising that a plethora of active and retired boxers have called out the 27-year-old, looking to cut themselves a slice of the lucrative pie.
You called out Canelo in the ring. Trevante Davis just posted that he would beat the brakes off of you if you guys fight.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be down. Let's run it. Like, I'd be super, super down. I don't know if
Javante needs Jake Paul. Let's be clear, right?
Is there a height limit in boxing?
What about you and Conor McGregor? Are you interested in that?
Yeah, he'll never do that though. He knows way.
One, he's under contract.
Undisputed light heavyweight champion Artur Beterbiev, a typically stoic character by nature, was one of the first to add his name to the conversation. The 39-year-old comes off a monumental victory over Dmitry Bivol, and yet he has rarely been known for expressing himself on social media. Nevertheless, the prolific knockout artist did, in fact, earn himself a response from Paul, who more or less swerved the potential beatdown. But now, after getting called out by Dubois, the problem child has shockingly expressed an interest in facing the heavyweight champion, claiming that he will be in touch with Most Valuable Promotions co-founder Nakisa Badarian. On X, he said, "Man been boxing for 12 years, has over 100 fights between amateur and pro, and fought on my undercard, ha ha ha. But fuck it. I'm going to have Nakisa talk to Frank Warren, Dubois' promoter, and get you in line for the throne. Unlike Artur, at least you have a few thousand fans." Dubois comes off a stunning 5th round stoppage victory over Anthony Joshua, causing a sizable upset to retain his IBF strap. Paul, on the other hand, has had just one heavyweight outing, and in truth looked to be considerably undersized for the weight. But still, the American is seemingly more eager to face Dubois than Beterbiev, down at 175 pounds, a weight that appears to be more natural for him. Moreover, Daniel's promoter Frank Warren said that he was not aware about Dubois' plans to make an offer to Jake Paul.
did you know that Daniel was going to call out Jake Paul?
No, I didn't. And I mean, I would at the very worst, that would be or the best, it would be probably the worst mismatch of all time.
Dubois looked set to rematch Anthony Joshua, but that is now off the table, and he will now likely make a voluntary defense of his IBF title in February. He has been informed he can choose from the top 15 of the IBF rankings, which would rule Paul out by default. Paul is not ranked at heavyweight by any governing body, and would need to take a leap of faith and fight a ranked opponent before earning any sanctioned shot. The champion has yet to pencil in his next fight, but Warren believes Paul is not in the hat with it set to be announced in due course.
Do you think it, Frank, diminishes the credibility? Daniel Dubois is a bona fide, legitimate heavyweight champion of the world. Right? May not be the most recognisable yet, but I'm sure if he keeps on going the way he's going, he will be. Do you think in some respect this is not an ideal look? You don't really want him calling out Jake Paul, do you?
Look, if he wants to do it, he'll do it. It won't happen. He's the IBF champion. Jake's not ranked in the IBF. He won't be ranked in the IBF. He's not fought anybody who's ranked in that in the top 10. So it's never going to happen.
Warren insists that a fight between Jake Paul and Daniel Dubois won't be on the table anytime soon.
Listen, on a serious note, Frank, now that we have you live on TalkSport, who's Daniel going to fight next?
I hope. I'm meeting him today, actually. I'm meeting him in about an hour, so I'll give it, and we'll see where we go with it. But we're pretty much nearly there to where we need to be. So hopefully we'll get it over the line today, tomorrow, and be ready to announce it.
Tony Bellew has been quick to mock the prospect of Jake Paul challenging heavyweight champion Daniel Dubois. Bellew, who has been outspoken regarding Paul's boxing career, insists there is simply no place for it.
Now look, Tony, if these reports are right, that Daniel Dubois has offered Jake Paul a shot at the IBF heavyweight world title, well, could you see that fight happening? Could you see Jake Paul getting in the ring with Dubois?
Jeff, I mean, I know the boy's got a great imagination, but I don't know what planet he's on, mate. He's just got to be on Mars or somewhere like that to even think about something like that. I mean, listen, it couldn't be sanctioned anyway, that's first and foremost.
Dubois has an incredible jab, which helped him dismantle experienced former two-time champion Joshua. It is no wonder Bellew picked it out as a weapon of choice, and Paul would likely face a near-impossible bid to dethrone Dubois.
I just think, listen, Daniel Dubois is on a whole new level. Daniel Dubois is one of the best heavyweights in the world. He would knock Jake Paul out with a jab. And believe you me, boys, I'm not messing. It would just be an embarrassment. I can't lay any of the blame for Friday night at the feet of Mike Tyson. Boys, we all know, and let's not beat around the bush yet.
Yeah, money.
We're all getting in the ring for 20 million.
Yeah, of course.
Jeff, you know it, mate. So we can lay no blame at the feet of the legend and great that is Mike Tyson.
Former cruiserweight king Johnny Nelson wasn't convinced anything will come of today's exchange, but does credit Paul for putting himself in a position where he cannot be ignored. He said, "It's a great publicity stunt. Remember when Chris Eubank Jr. first came on the scene, and Chris Sr. was using his name in the same sentence as Gennady Golovkin? Once you start to do that, people start to talk. That's how things get rolling. It doesn't mean it is ever going to happen. Canelo Alvarez, Artur Beterbiev, Daniel Dubois, it's all hype. For Jake Paul, it is business, and he has done a great job." He further added, "I'm a boxing snob. I don't like the fact that he is buying scalps. I don't like the fact he bought this Mike Tyson scalp, but it was good business. Old boys like myself will have hoped he had one shot left in him to knock Paul out, but he didn't." Asked if a legitimate world champion in Dubois directly calling out Paul was a worrying sign, Nelson continued, "I don't think so. Everyone is entitled to jump on the gravy train. We have seen it with Tony Bellew and Carl Froch this week. There will be many thinking, this is mad money for fighting a kid who is domestic level at the best. Daniel Dubois is just on the same gravy train, hoping Paul is delusional enough to have a go. Everyone is at it, and I get it." Simon Jordan believes that there's no way Jake Paul goes in the ring with a legitimate boxer like Daniel Dubois, and if he does, he'd be knocked out into a different world.
Daniel Dubois would knock Jason Paul into the next life within 30 seconds.
Yeah. Well, you would think, but we'd like Jake surely now just to go back to YouTubing, which is what he does.
No, I'd like him to go into a proper fighter that's at a certain age and get filled in.
You'd like to see that?
Well, insofar as I'd like to see anything about Jake Paul.
But why would that do any good for the sport?
Because it's not about doing any good for the sport. He's not interested.
Well, it should be.
Meanwhile, Dillian Whyte has stated that the IBF heavyweight champion would murder the YouTuber turned boxer.
I like Jake Paul. I like what he's doing for boxing, but this is getting ridiculous now. And obviously, I can understand why Daniel would challenge him, because it'd be Daniel's biggest payday so far. As funny as it may seem, considering he's the world champion, Jake Paul is a YouTuber. It'd be Daniel's biggest payday. I get it. And he'll get murdered.
Yeah.
Whyte then credited Paul for bringing more eyes to boxing, which can only help the current crop of stars.
You know, I think he's doing great things for boxing, because his undercards always stacked with real fights, and he's bringing new fans to the game. Fans that's a lot of people don't know who Mike Tyson is. You know what I mean? He's bringing fans that would then go and look up, Google Mike Tyson, see who Mike Tyson is, see Mike Tyson when it's great. Then when you Google one guy, other boxers will pop up, and then these people they'll be non-boxing fans will become casual boxing fans who end up becoming hardcore boxing fans in the long run, because they'll start watching fights.
Moreover, Carl Froch is ready to end his boxing retirement for a fight with Jake Paul. The former super middleweight world champion hasn't fought since knocking out George Groves in front of 80,000 people at London's Wembley Stadium in May 2014, but he still thinks he'd beat the problem child. Jake Paul was tagged by Carl Froch in a video of the Englishman's scathing assessment of his latest fight. The Cobra claimed he'd easily beat Paul and even proposed tying one arm behind his back for their clash.
He'd mentioned me before, and there'll be people out there saying, oh, Carl Froch talking about himself, he's after a payday. Listen, I'm not after a payday. I'm doing all right. There's no problems with my finances, but I'll take the fucking payday, of course I will, and I'll end Jake Paul with one punch. I'd go in there one-armed and beat this guy. He can't box. He's absolutely useless, which we saw last night with Mike Tyson.
However, the former Disney star issued an angry response that suggested they would never do business. Paul tweeted, "Fucking sour loser. Shut the fuck up. I've done more in 4 years than you have in your life. First and last time I respond to your broke salty ass. Let me know if you want to wash my cars." Froch overstepped with his comeback as he made crass comments about Paul's speed skater girlfriend Yuta Leerdam before offering a bold prediction for their hypothetical fight. He wrote, "Listen up, Jakey boy. I'm 11 years retired, not done a round of boxing for over a decade. I'm old, gray, and out of shape, but I'd still give your missus the best night of her life. I bet she dreams about a real man. Let me know if you still want your cars washing. She can let me in through the back door. P.S. I'd knock you out in 30 seconds. You are useless." Paul is often criticized for fighting older, undersized, and inexperienced opponents. However, he insists that his next foe will be one of the best boxers competing today. In a recent episode of his BS with Jake Paul podcast, Paul acknowledged he might be biting off more than he can chew in a potential boxing match with Saul Canelo Alvarez.
I mean, genuinely, like, everyone's biggest critique is like, fight a pro, fight this person, fight someone your age. So when I say Canelo is the person, then everyone hates on that. But I'm like, all right, sheep, what do you want? Do you want me to fight someone? Like, people just want to see me lose. So wouldn't the best opportunity to see me lose be going up against Canelo?
Absolutely.
People will never be satisfied with my career until I get flatlined.
Speaking of this fight, Carl Froch was sure that Canelo would swipe the floor with Jake if it ever happened.
Talking about Canelo Alvarez, I've not mentioned Canelo Alvarez because it's just laughable. Jake Paul, Canelo Alvarez, can you imagine? I mean, Jake Paul fancies that and he jumps in the ring with him. I will pay homage to him, because fair play, if he jumps in there with Canelo Alvarez, he'll get absolutely destroyed, and it will be fast and it will be messy, and it will be bad for his health as well, potentially.
Froch was also very critical of Jake fighting Mike Tyson. Froch called it a massive anti-climax, referring to the entire spectacle as crap. Speaking candidly on his YouTube channel, Froch expressed his disillusionment with the quality of the fight, suggesting that Tyson, at 58 years old, seemed to be more of a participant in a circus act than a legitimate contender. For Froch, the event was more about spectacle than sport, a show that failed to deliver the excitement fans expected.
Listen, it was an anti-climax. It didn't live up to the expectations of what it was built up to be. I mean, it was crap, wasn't it? Let's be honest. The fight itself was awful.
Froch was particularly critical of Jake Paul's performance, speculating that Paul, perhaps out of respect for Tyson or out of fear of injuring him, failed to engage properly in the fight. Froch doubted Paul's ability to knock out Tyson, suggesting that the social media star simply wasn't skilled enough. He pointed out that Paul had only a limited amount of professional boxing experience, with his most notable fight being a loss to Tommy Fury, a fighter he dismissed as only British level. For Froch, this further tarnished the credibility of Paul's victory and raised questions about the legitimacy of his rise in the boxing world.
What happened? What happened in the fight? What happened in the ring? There was no substance. It's like when you're cooking a meal all day. You cook up a nice broth. You put your organic steak mince in. You put your potatoes in. Your sweet potatoes are a bit better for you. Bit of vegetables, all your stock, and you're slow cooking it all day. And then at the end of the day, when you dip the spoon in and you have a little sample and it tastes like absolute shit, you think to yourself, what a waste of time that was. Jake Paul didn't really get anything going. He was almost fighting scared. He came into the ring walk, into that big stadium, and what was it, a Chevrolet or a Cadillac? It was a big gas-guzzling American car. It looked good, he looked cool, he looked a bit nervous, but he looked cool in his car. His brother was there, Logan Paul, all the glitz and glam, the music, the pyrotechnics, the whole build-up to this show was fantastic. It was enjoyable. But unfortunately, when both guys, the reason I'm not talking about the fight, because there's nothing to really talk about. The fight was absolutely hopeless. It was terrible.
Despite acknowledging Tyson's age and physical struggles, Froch did not hesitate to criticize Paul's performance, calling it lackluster, and suggesting that Paul was unwilling to truly challenge Tyson. Froch also questioned Paul's narrative that he was avoiding a knockout out of respect, implying that Paul simply didn't have the heart or courage to finish the fight when he had the chance.
But every time he did try and close the gap, Jake Paul backed off, got behind his jab. He threw a couple of shots in there. He did throw a couple of big swings as well at one point. So that's why I have to question. When he said he took his time on Mike Tyson, didn't want to hurt him, didn't want to knock him out, I'm not so sure about that, because he was swinging away at points in that ring. And if some of them shots would have landed, they would have probably hurt Mike Tyson, because he's 58 years old. But anyway, nothing really happened. Tyson came out round 1-2. The fight itself was a massive anticlimax. It was f***ing crap. It was a waste of time. I'm glad I didn't stay up late to watch it. All the people that pay good money to be there and watch it, they must be disappointed with that performance. And I'm not taking anything away from Mike Tyson. He's 58 years old. He can only do what he can do. He's got an old body. But Jake Paul put in a performance as well. Didn't really try and do much, but it was nice that at the end he paid respect to Mike Tyson.
So what are your thoughts about this? Do let us know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe and check out our other videos for more insights and analysis on the world of boxing.